Here we go. Cups up. Toast to the morning word crowd. God bless y'all. And God bless America. Go get me a fat loan. Yeah, I'm gonna get it from your pawpaw-in-law right there. I'm gonna get it from Pops, Brandy. Hey, Daryl, I got a deal for you. I got a deal for you. All right, here we go. Toast to the morning word crowd. God bless y'all and God bless America. Well, look at Stacy. Y'all stop the train and let her get on. Get on, Stacy. Doug Jones, Robbie Pritchett, good morning. Good morning. Oh, he played at Home Alone. Okay, I got you. Hey, Kim. Hey, Sonny B. All right, here we go. All seriousness. Mark chapter 4. Hey, Rhonda. Mark chapter 4, verse 35. On the same day when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us cross over to the other side." Now when they had left the multitude, they took him along in the boat as he was, and other little boats were with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat so that it was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. And they awoke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" Then he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. But he said to them, "Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, "Who can this be that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Who can this be? Here we see, among all the other teachings that you've heard about this, about faith and some of them misaligned, some of them talking about Jesus wanted them to speak to the sea and leave him alone, and whatever. This is the deal. Here we see, and this is the morning word, the patience of Christ. How many of y'all have raised kids? I know most all of you have, right? Raised kids, and it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of patience. And I really don't have it. We have a small pillow that sits in Beth's recliner, and it says, I had my patience tested. I was tested for patience today, and I don't have any. So patience is something that I run short on a lot, but Jesus doesn't. And here's what I'm talking about. These disciples lived with Jesus. They lived with him. They followed him around. Once they left everything, they began to live with him and travel with him and listen to him and to watch his miracles and to watch how he interacted with people and how he was gracious and kind and how he could raise the dead, how he could heal the sick, open blinded eyes. All right. And so now they're in a boat with him, and they are in a list. If you go into the other versions of this story, it gives a little bit more detail to the storm. But this was a tremendous storm. These guys are professional fishermen, and they think that their boat's going to sink and that they're going to die. So they are truly scared. So the scripture tells us pointedly that while they are in the midst of this storm and they are fearful for their life, and they awaken him, ask him, does he care? Isn't he aware? Is he aware? Does he care? Excuse me. And he gets up and he doesn't rebuke them. He asks them a question, but he doesn't rebuke them. He rebukes the wind and he speaks to the sea, and everything goes calm. And then he turns to them and he says, "Why are you so fearful?" He's not being ugly. He's not being hard. He's not being harsh. He's just being inquisitive. He wants them to think about something. Why are we so fearful? That's what he wants me and you to ask. Why are we so fearful? Then he says, "How is it that you have no faith?" He's talking to them. No faith? We left everything to follow you. Yeah, but in this situation, you're not exercising any faith. The question comes to us, why is it that we seldom exercise our faith? That we're always being moved and controlled by fear? Jesus, they've been living with Jesus. They've been seeing everything. And they still had not matured in their faith. They still hadn't got it. And you and I would look at them and go, man, why don't they get it? Well, look, it's been 20 centuries since this incident. And we've had the Bible. And we've been able to read this story. True story, not a story, true story. We've been able to read this story along with all the others. And we still don't get it. We still don't get it. We still are fearful. We're not putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 4 with regards to trusting Jesus. We've got all this kind of hyper faith in faith, so that we kind of put Jesus over here and we start doing Jesus's job, right? We got people that's wanting to talk to the sea. Listen, the sea ain't listening to you. We got people who want to talk to the wind. The wind ain't listening to you. There's one person in this story the wind listens to. There's one person in this story that the sea listens to. Jesus. Our faith is not to be in our faith and our ability to be able to calm storms. Our faith is in him. Our faith is the object of your faith of our faith is always Jesus. Jesus. And he kind of looks at them and goes, when you guys, Randy's paraphrase, the subtle or the sublime kind of not so out front, he's asking them, he goes, when you guys going to get it? When are you guys going to get it? Now, they got it after Pentecost. They got it. But the question begs to us now, when are we going to get it? You see, we need to see, there's 3 P's here, 3 P's. Write it down in your Bible, 3 P's. One is we need to see the plan of Christ. The plan of Christ was to put these disciples in as many scenarios as possible so that they could learn to trust him. That's why he took them out into the ocean. Do you think that Jesus didn't check with ABC 3340 before he got in that boat to find out that a storm was coming their way? No. He's the ruler of the storms. He gets in the boat and they head out across that lake, and his purpose, okay? His purpose is to put them in a storm. He's going to be asleep, and his plan is to see how they are going to react. What are they going to do here? See, listen to me, my friends. Listen to me, my friends. Jesus' plan for your life is not to eradicate all your storms, all of our storms. His plan for our life, his purpose for our life, is to have people that can go through storms like everybody else and not fall apart like a $2 suitcase. He puts them in this situation because they're going to be in this situation again. Paul said in his epistles, he said, I've been shipwrecked. All right? I've been hungry. I've been thirsty. I've been naked. I've been beaten. I've been betrayed. I've been lied about, talked about, abandoned. Listen, becoming a Christian is not a get out of jail free card. It's Jesus with me card. And it's heaven eventually card. But he leaves us down here to be a light, not a light that's living outside of life's storms, but a light that's living inside of God's storms. His plan is to mature us in our faith so that we don't have to fall apart when the storms come. He put us in the storms he put them in the storms for a purpose. It's part of their growing up. It's part of their maturation process. And so, and he's telling them, where's your faith? In other words, when you see me asleep in the storm, you ought to rest easy. You ought to rest easy. So we see the plan, the purpose is to mature our faith and to make us more like Jesus, who did not require his Father to remove the storms for him, but for his Father to enable him to weather the storms. That's what Jesus did. He did, when he got to the cross, we saw the human side of him. This is how we say, Lord, if it be any way, let this cross pass from me. That's what we want. But then here comes his trust. Here comes his faith. Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. It means that I trust you to do whatever is right, to do whatever brings glory and honor to your name. Let me put it to you this way. Yesterday I was watching a Facebook reel, and one of my favorite reels that comes up is this, I can't even remember the guy's name, but they sit around a table. He's funny. He's a preacher. I think he's getting Alzheimer's now, but his sons and they carry on the tradition, and he was a pastor. He's kind of got big eyes, and he tells a lot of good stories, kind of talks slow like this. Well, anyway, in one of those episodes, this man is sitting there. I think he's part of their family, and said, when I went away to Vietnam and I came home, I was home, and I was sitting with my mom one day on the front porch. And he said, I asked her, he said, Mama, did you pray for me to come home every day while I was gone? Listen. And she said, no. And he said, Mama, you didn't pray for me to come home every day that I was gone? She said, they're sitting on the front porch. She said, son, you see that road that is going off down towards the barn? He said, yes, ma'am. She said, every day I walked that road and I prayed. And here's what I prayed. Lord, not my will, she called his name, not my will for him, your will for him. She said, the reason I prayed that was I thought that I could pray for God to bring you home, and he could answer my prayer legitimately if you came home in a box. I didn't want you to come home in a box. I wanted you to come home alive. So I asked God, God, not my will, but your will be done. And he says, man, that was eye-opening for me. That's trust, buddy. That's faith. That's faith. And so, not only do we see the plan of God put us in certain situations, but the purpose of God is to mature us. And then we see the power of God. Then we see the power of God. He stands up. He stands up. He doesn't chastise them. He does eventually ask them a question. He doesn't chastise them. He doesn't rebuke them. He doesn't scold them. He just speaks to the wind and the sea. The guy laying in the boat stands up and talks to the wind and the sea, and they obey him. They obey him. And they look at one another and go, who is this guy that even the wind and the seas obey him? They hadn't put it together yet. Their faith had not gotten there yet. Here's the deal, guys. And I think on teaching this before, I think I've mentioned this. But Jesus wasn't in control of those waves and those winds just when he was standing up speaking to them. He was in control of those winds and those waves while he was asleep. Because God is always God. He's always God. He's not in control when he responds positively to our prayers and our pleas. He's God all the time, meaning that what he wants to happen is happening. And it doesn't make sense to us because from our perspective, like their perspective, everything's going to hell in a handbasket. Mach 1 with its hair on fire. The world is burning down around us. Our boats are taking on water. Our lives, our very way of life is being threatened. And it's not looking good. And we think, oh, Lord, stand up and take control. Stop, Alice. He is in control. The question is do we trust him? That doesn't mean that we don't petition, that we don't ask, that we don't seek, and that we don't knock. But that means that regardless of whether or not, listen, regardless of whether or not he wakes up, stands up, and speaks up, is irrelevant. That's what we want, but that has nothing to do with faith. Faith is trusting him. That's what faith is, trusting him. Not trusting him to do something, but trusting him. And because he's a good God, because he's holy, because he's righteous, because he's dealing with a full deck of cards, meaning that he's all wise, all powerful, all discerning, all present, that he's going to make the right decision. And we're good with it, whatever it is. Listen, man, he has a plan, put us in situations just like everybody else. He has a purpose, bring us to a mature faith, but he still has power. Don't ever, ever, ever count him out. Don't ever think that the waves are too high for Jesus. Don't ever think that the boat is too full for Jesus. He can fix it. He can fix it. I know that's a Southern slang term, but he can fix it. He's all we need. He's all we need. So I hope you guys got something out of that this morning. The patience of Christ. Not all of us are there. You know, the Bible says in our walk with the Lord, some bringing forth fruit, some may bring 30, some 60, some 100-fold. We're not all in the same place in our walk. And we're not in the same place in our walk on each and every day. Some days our faith is great, and we can say, look, we can tell the Lord what we want, and then we can surrender, not my will, but your will be done. And sometimes our faith is weak, and we say, God, you got to do it. There's no option. You got to do it. Our faith is weak, and he's patient. He's patient. He's got to, listen, it doesn't change. It does not change. He has a plan, he has a purpose, and he has power. And how he chooses to implement that in my life, in your life, and in our life is up to him. Sometimes he'll make that boat stop, and sometimes he'll make those waves calm. And then sometimes he'll just stay asleep and say, let's roll with it. Either way, here's what's going to happen. We do get to the other side. You will make it to the other side. Why? Why can I say that? How do I know? You say, Pastor Ray, how do you say that? Because he's in your boat. He's in your boat. He's in your boat. And he said, let us, that's me and you, go to the other side. Jesus is not sending us to heaven. He's taking us there. Hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow, good Lord willing, and the saints don't rise. Peace out.